So a sphere is kind of like, for example, one of the ones that I gave you was like a basketball. It might not be the best drawing of a sphere, but... And if you know the diameter is 23.9, a diameter is just the radius doubled. So if you take that diameter and divide it by 2, you would end up with what the radius should be. So it should be something like 11.95 to be able to calculate what the radius is. So what our goal is can we play with these numbers and try to figure out what the surface area is. So I'm going to get my calculator ready. And up at the top, I give you this surface area of a sphere formula, 4 pi r squared. So we're going to substitute in our radius, and that's really the only thing that we have to do to find surface area. $11.95 squared and times it by 4 times it by pi and it's supposed to be to the nearest tenth. That's this space. So when I look at the number before it, it keeps it the same. So a rounded answer of maybe 1,794.5. That would be squared. Area is always squared. Volume, there's a formula up top. Again, we're going to use that radius. But this time we're doing 11.95 to, the third power. Times pi times 4/3. And if we're rounding it to the 10th, we're going to do 7148.1, and this would be our centimeters cubed. So regardless of whether you're given the diameter or the radius, for all of them you're given something, except for the tennis ball. All of them you're given something. Also the baseball and the bowling ball looks like you've got to work backwards to try to figure out what those could be as far as the radius and diameter to be able to build on it. So we're getting our volume of those ones. You're given a mass of 620 grams. And so the last thing says, will it float? Well, I don't know if a basketball would float. So the goal is, okay, if you look at the bottom, it says density equals mass divided by volume. And if this number is bigger than 1, it will sink. Smaller than 1, it will float. And shouldn't be a guessing game. We're supposed to actually find out whether these things sink or float. So if I'm trying to find the density of this, I need the mass over the volume and I've got to decide if this is bigger than 1 or smaller than 1. So 620 divided by 7,148.1. It's like 0.08 or 0.09. I can tell right off the bat that this is going to float because this is a fraction. It's not top heavy. It's a fraction 620 over 7,000 something. The numerator is smaller than the denominator. So I know that is going to be like a fraction, like 1/2, 1/3, 5/6, something that's something smaller than 1. So floating, a basketball should float. So I want you to go through these 8 things. You can fill in the basketball ones. You may need to have a separate sheet of paper out to be able to find soccer ball and baseball. I would say baseball and tennis ball and bowling ball are all going to be, the 10-pound bowling ball, will be the most difficult ones because you got to work backwards to try to figure out, okay, if I have the surface area and I know surface area equals 4 pi r squared, then I've got to try to find out what that r squared is. And lastly, find out what the r is by square rooting it. And there is a button to cube root things on your calculators too when you're given the volume like in the tennis ball. So I want you to try that. And then you can move on to the next item on the bulleted list for today's lesson.